Today, we're going to ask a really simple question. What are the basic ingredients that make you, well, you? And it all boils down to chemistry. All right, so let's start right there. What are the absolute rock bottom, fundamental things that make up any living thing? Every single thing your body does, I'm talking thinking, breathing, digesting your lunch, it's all just a chain of chemical reactions. And those reactions, they follow the exact same physical laws that govern a rock or a planet or a star. Life doesn't get a special rule book. Nope, it has to play by the same rules as everything else in the universe. Okay, so if life is all just chemistry, what's in the recipe? You'd think for something as wild and complex as a person, the ingredient list would be huge, right? Okay, now look at this chart. See that column for humans? Now look for carbon. Whoa, it makes up a whopping 18% of you and me. But now check out the other columns. The atmosphere, the Earth's crust, it's barely even there. It's just a trace element. And that tells us something really profound. Life isn't lazy. It doesn't just use whatever's lying around. It actively goes out and finds and concentrates a very specific set of ingredients to build itself. So, we've got our ingredients. But how do they all get put together? To figure that out, we've got to zoom way in, down to the ultimate building block. Think of it like the universe's most fundamental Lego piece. And here it is, the atom. Basically, it's the smallest possible bit of anything that's still that thing. You know, if you could take a chunk of gold and just keep cutting it in half, and in half again and again, the very last piece you'd have that you could still point to and say, yep, that's gold, would be one single atom. Everything, and I mean everything, is built from these. So, what's an atom made of? Well, in the middle, you've got this dense core, the nucleus, with protons and neutrons hanging out. But honestly, the real party is happening on the outside. See those tiny, negatively charged electrons zipping around? They are the key players. Their behavior, well, it dictates pretty much everything about how atoms connect, bond, and build the world around us. Here's a cool thing about atoms. For any element, like carbon, the number of protons is locked in. That's what makes it carbon. But the number of neutrons can vary. So you get these different flavors of carbon, called isotopes. They act the same chemically, they're just a little heavier or lighter. And sometimes, those heavier ones are a bit unstable. And that instability? It gives us one of the coolest tools in all of science, radiocarbon dating. You see, this heavy isotope, carbon-14, breaks down into nitrogen-14 at a super predictable rate. It's like a perfect clock. While you're alive, you're constantly taking in new carbon-14 from food. But the second something dies, that stops. The clock starts ticking. And by measuring how much of that carbon-14 is left in, say, a fossil, we can tell almost exactly how old it is going back about 50,000 years. It's incredible. All right, so we've got our atomic Legos. But how do they snap together? How do they build something as simple as a water molecule or as mind-bogglingly complex as DNA? Well, the answer, once again, comes down to those busy little electrons on the outside. It turns out there's one main goal driving almost all of chemistry, and that's stability. You could almost say atoms want to feel complete. And for most of the atoms that make up you and me, complete means having a full outer shell of electrons. That magic number is usually 8. It's called the octet rule, and it's basically the #1 rule that decides who bonds with whom. So one way to get that full outer shell is pretty simple. Just give an electron away, or, snatch one from another atom. Take sodium. It's got one lonely electron in its outer shell it's just dying to get rid of. And chlorine over here, it's just one short of a perfect set of 8. So it's a perfect match. Sodium donates its electron, and now it's got a positive charge. Chlorine accepts it, gets a negative charge, and what do opposites do? They attract. Boom! You've just made table salt with an ionic bond. But when we're talking about the molecules of life, there's a way more popular strategy. Instead of a simple give and take, atoms decide to form a partnership. They share their electrons. This is called a covalent bond. It's way stronger, way more stable, and it's absolutely perfect for building all the complicated stuff that makes a cell work. And if you want to see just how important these covalent bonds are, we only need to look at one molecule. Probably the single most important molecule for life as we know it, water. Now, the secret to water isn't just that it's H2O, it's how those atoms are bonded. The big oxygen atom is kind of an electron hog. It pulls those shared electrons a little closer to its side. So what you end up with is a molecule where the oxygen end is a tiny bit negative and the two hydrogen ends are a tiny bit positive. And this one little thing, this polarity is, well, it's everything. It's the reason water molecules are sticky and cling to each other. It's why water is such a fantastic solvent, able to dissolve all sorts of stuff, creating the chemical soup inside our cells where life happens. It's even why ice floats, which is crucial for life in lakes and oceans. All of that from one simple, unequal sharing of electrons. Okay, last but not least, let's turn to the absolute superstar of our recipe, carbon. This is the element that literally forms the backbone of every important molecule in your body. Proteins, fats, DNA. You name it, carbon's at the center of it. So what's carbon's secret? It all comes down to one number, 4. See, it's got 4 electrons in its outer shell, and it needs 4 more to feel stable. That means it can form 4 strong, stable, covalent bonds with other atoms. It's not just a connector, it's the ultimate molecular hub. And because it can make 4 bonds, carbon can build an insane variety of shapes. We're talking long, flexible chains, branching structures that look like trees, stable rings. It can even form double bonds, which are super rigid and lock atoms into a flat plane. And this mix-and-match versatility, this ability to be both flexible and rigid, that is absolutely critical. And this gets to the absolute heart of why carbon is the king. Because in biology, shape is everything. A molecule's 3D shape determines what it does. Think about it. An enzyme works because it has a perfectly shaped little pocket for another molecule to fit into. DNA can store all that information because of its very specific double helix shape. Carbon is the perfect Lego piece for building these incredibly precise 3-dimensional machines of life. So now, let's circle all the way back to that first chart. Now it all makes sense, right? We are mostly oxygen and hydrogen. Basically, we're bags of water, the perfect solvent for life's chemistry. And what's the next biggest ingredient? Carbon, the master builder. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, life isn't some kind of magic. It's just incredibly clever chemistry. It's built from just a handful of simple ingredients. It follows a few basic rules about sharing or swapping electrons. You've got carbon as the master architect, building the structures, and this entire chemical symphony plays out inside water, whose crazy unique properties make the whole show possible. And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. The ingredients we've talked about, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, they're literally everywhere in the universe. And the rules of chemistry, they're the same on Earth as they are in the Andromeda Galaxy. So, if the recipe is this simple and the ingredients are everywhere, what do you think the chances are that something's been cooked up somewhere else out there?